I don't like what I become. Constantly got my eye on my funds. Always wanna make two out of one. And I don't like it.
All right, welcome to Here's to the Rubble, episode 25. Steve actually isn't here today, but that song you just heard was Funds by Batty. And today I actually got Jalen here with me, and we're talking to Joe from Batty, actually. And I just want to instantly start out with Joe. I love the record. I love that. I love Funds. I think my favorite song on the record is No Time for Love, the intro track.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. No Time for Love almost got cut. I was worried that it didn't fit the vibe. I almost didn't put that one on there, so thanks. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. I definitely liked that it was a little bit different from the rest of the record.
Also, it has a bass solo in it, which I don't know why no one ever wants a bass solo, so I don't know why I did that.
Oh, well, this podcast this podcast is actually historically a bass-friendly podcast.
Yeah, but Steve's not here today. It's good on here.
But yeah, if Steve was here, I know he probably loves that bass solo. And I love a good bass solo.
Oh, yeah. I just remember my older brother's a jazz bass player, and he used to always send me these memes. One of them was like, there's a guy sitting in an interrogation chair. He's like all tied up. They got the lamp in his face. They're getting answers out of him, but he won't talk. So they're like, we can't get this guy to talk. And then a guy with an upright bass walks in. He goes, don't worry, I'll just start soloing. He'll talk right away.
Yeah, that's funny. So I kind of skipped this portion, but we can go back to it. What have you guys been listening to? Jalen, how about you?
I mean, there's been a lot of new music released recently, but nothing like it's really sticking out for me right now. I've gone back to a lot of old stuff of mine, but I listen mostly like hip hop, rap kind of stuff. I checked out Batty's album last night, No Money in Rock and Roll. Listened to it when I was getting blitzed.
Hell yeah.
And I loved it too, but we'll get into that in a minute. What have you been listening to, Joe?
As far as new stuff, that Dirty Nil record that came out over COVID, Fuck Art, that's probably my favorite rock record of like the last, for a long time. That's a great record.
Right.
Do you know like Pink Shift? They're like a heavy punk band from Baltimore. Sturgill Simpson's like the country artist. I listen to a lot of that stuff.
Hell yeah.
But really, the thing that's really been getting my goat the last couple of weeks is Brendan Kelly from the Lawrence Arms did a podcast where he goes over like the history of the Lawrence Arms. The host of it, Tim, will like pick a different Lawrence Arms record, and then they'll go through like each song on every Lawrence Arms record. They'll talk about where the band was when it was being written and recorded. So I've been listening to that and going back and listening to each Lawrence Arms record each episode with each record. And I've been like really, really digging through these old Lawrence Arms records. Like I only knew their stuff from like Butt, Sweat, and Tears and all. I didn't even know any of their older stuff. So like really digging into Brendan Kelly and Chris's old songwriting is like, man, Lawrence Arms is a great band.
Yeah,
Lawrence Arms. Answer your question, the Lawrence.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've actually been wanting to check out that podcast. There's a similar podcast just called A Podcast About Propaganda. And it's a couple of people that they're not in propaganda, but they're just really big fans of propaganda. And every episode they like talk about one specific propaganda song and like the history behind it and stuff.
Big, okay.
Yeah, and I'm a huge propaganda fan. They're one of my favorite like hardcore bands from like the 90s punk era.
That's the only propaganda song I ever really knew intimately was Ska Sucks. And it's because my friends and I would put it on every playlist with all of our ska songs.
Yeah, same.
But listening to the Lawrence Arms thing, and even just checking out interviews with the journalist Dan Ozzie, they both talk about propaganda a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Man, I need to give that band a second go through.
Yeah, their first and second records, How to Clean Everything and Less Talk, More Rock. I think those are two of my favorite punk records, honestly.
What was the one I owned a CD of theirs when I was younger. It was I want to say the cover was like a an aerial view of like a like asphalt or something, and there was like either a body on the ground or like there was like chalk lines on the ground.
I think that might be Potomac City Limits or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Potemkin City Limits. Yeah. Yeah, that was the only album of theirs that I ever owned, and I was like, this is the. It just didn't sound like the band that I thought I'd heard people talking about. So maybe I've been listening to the wrong record.
Yeah, they got a lot of. They like switch up their sound a lot. If you ask me, like their first two records, they had. If you've ever listened to the Weaker Thans,
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
the singer of the Weaker Thans was originally in Propagandhi, like as a second singer. So that's always really weird because like the albums he sang on were sounded drastically different from his singing sound, but I thought it was kind of interesting. But yeah, they've definitely got a pretty diverse sound.
Word. Well, I can't complain about that.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So I especially wanted to talk about Ain't No Money in Rock and Roll today because I think it's a really good album. I pretty much ever since you sent it to me, I've been every day when I walk to work and home from work, that's what I'm listening to in my headphones.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, I just kind of want to hear about the recording process, especially the songwriting. I think the lyrics are great.
Yeah, thanks. I guess the songwriting came first. Half of the songs are my sister Amelia, and then half of the songs are me. I open the record, she closes the record, but we alternate. The songwriting started like 6 or 7 years ago. The songs on there, "Nobody Likes You When You're 22" and "Fancy Livin'," I wrote when I was 22 years old, which would have been like 6 years ago. I had just dropped out of school, moved to the city, was kind of like couch surfing, kind of partying a little too hard, and I was like, okay, the reason I just like looked at myself one day and I was like, the reason that I quit school and moved out here was to do music. Like, I put everything else on hold to be a musician, and I'm not being a musician. I'm being a fucking party asshole. So I like basically locked myself in the garage every day. I would get home from work and I would just go out to the garage, and I'm like, I'm not leaving here until I like feel like I have forward momentum. So I banged out a couple of the rough drafts of what would become the Batty songs. And I showed them to Amy, and she and I kind of shared some ideas back and forth. But we wound up joining a pop punk band called the Flabbercasters, and we took that real serious for like 5 years. And then after that band broke up, we looked at each other. We're like, man, remember all those songs that we like really liked, but we never did anything with? We should revisit those. And we got back together, and she was like, oh, there's actually an album somewhere in here. So she banged out a couple more, and we just kind of just spent quarantine trying to get these old song ideas kind of into something cohesive.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting with quarantine how like some passion projects were able to be brought back with so much extra time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
go on.
And I was just gonna say, like, yeah, I love like sibling bands. I think they usually just sound really good. Like, I don't know, siblings can mesh together well. And yeah, I always think that's awesome. And I was kind of wondering, like, do you guys like, do you come from a music family? Like, did your parents play music much or anything like that?
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
my mom, our mom was a bit of a hobbyist. Our parents were both medics in the military, but my dad was a
Okay.
begrudging one, and my mom was very into it. So um, after we had all stopped being babies, my mom went back into the medical field. She's very much into hands-on helping people. But my dad's side of the family was all musicians. His biological father was a professional jazz musician. His stepfather, the man that raised him, was a professional jazz musician. He was like a weekend warrior. Both of our older brothers are professional jazz musicians. And then
Oh,
Amy
wow.
and I got into Pat the Bunny and NoFX, and we're like, yeah, jazz sucks.
I'm wearing a No Effects hoodie right now.
Well, that's really interesting that everyone went jazz and then you guys took a very different path.
Yeah, it was very contentious when I was a Blink-182 fan. Let me tell you, listen to how the entire melody in this whole song is only two notes, and I was like, no, two fourths or whatever.
That's awesome. So, was Funds one of the songs that that was one of the older songs, or is that one of the ones that kind of got made during quarantine, or did that come from the couch surfing kind of broke college dropout times?
Uh,
Is that my standout record or song of the record? I really really liked that one.
thank you. I'm really proud of that one. I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually don't have a clear memory of where that song came
Okay.
from. Um, I do remember that I had this idea of not doing choruses for a while, where I wanted to see, like, what if you took the same A section and you just compounded it more and more, and then you let it fall apart, and then
Mm-hmm.
then we bring it back at the end. So like I remember having like the impetus or the idea for Funds. I'm gonna guess it was a little bit later.
Okay.
It would have been during the Flabbercaster days. So that song, I actually don't. We did a Batty set, like a one off in maybe 2016 or 2017 at our friend Brace Face's DIY venue, and I just found this recording of that show. Like I didn't remember that this show happened. I was like, wait, Batty played a trio gig like 4 years ago. I was like, I didn't remember this at all. And I was listening to it, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's all of the old Batty songs. And then there was Funds on there. And as soon as I started singing, I like looked at Amelia, and I was like, wait, what is this? And by the time it was into like the third verse, when I started screaming, I was like, holy crap, I forgot about this song. So I immediately like went through my old notebooks and found the sheets, and I was
Yeah.
like, whoa. I was like, this one's sick. I don't remember writing this one.
Wow, that's
That's awesome.
I mean,
You should send us that video if you have the chance later. That would be awesome to see.
It's as far as I know, it's only audio, but yeah, I can absolutely
Oh,
send
okay.
the audio.
Yeah, that'd be great. Love to post that on the podcast IG. Go ahead, RJ. I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, it's always cool hearing those stories because, like, imagine if that song just got lost along the way.
Uh-huh.
Like, and
Yeah,
it's just
how
cool
many
that it
songs
didn't.
Have
Yeah.
lost.
Right.
Mitch from Braceface just like randomly emailed me this old set one day, and if he hadn't done that, I would not have known about the song. Like I would have forgotten about Funds.
Wow.
So
Crazy
thank you,
to think
Mitch.
about.
I have a million reasons to thank Mitch, but this is another one.
Shout out, Mitch. The other song, Catholic Guilt, like that song to me, listening to that, I was like, this. That's a song I think could go viral in the right hands. Like if someone was to hear that, I think that could easily take off online. Like
Yeah,
that
that was
song,
one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah. Amy wrote that one, and
Mhm.
it was one of the few of hers that a lot of her stuff is super personal, and I
Yeah,
would have felt like an ass trying to speak for her. But I
of
was like, for
course.
Catholic Guilt, like that one. Amy and I were both like altar servers when we were like 9 years old,
Okay.
and we were like, we've had a lot of conversations about how, for better or for worse, the Catholic Church has been one of the most blooming powerful forces in our lives, no matter how
Mhm.
far you try to get away from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about we take a listen to that real quick?
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
I don't believe what they told me. Something about morality. But I was already gone by the time they told me about homosexuals. I don't believe all the hype. I choose to see things with my eyes, but I can still feel the shame. It doesn't die off along with the faith. Catholic guilt never leaves you. It's not something you hold on to. But Catholic guilt never leaves you. Never leaves you. Never leaves you. I prayed as hard as I could when I was in your neighborhood. I heard nothing at all, but I know it's too bold to ask because Catholic guilt never leaves you. It's not something you hold on to, but Catholic guilt never leaves you. Never leaves you. Never leaves you. I don't believe what they told me. Something about morality. But I was already gone by the time they told me about homosexuals. Catholic guilt never leaves you. It's not something you hold on to. But Catholic guilt never leaves you. Never leaves you. Never leaves you. Catholic guilt never leaves you. Catholic guilt never leaves you. It's not something you hold on to. It's not something you hold on. But Catholic guilt never leaves you. Catholic guilt never leaves you. Never leaves you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely. It's really hard for me to pick my favorite songs on that album, but that's definitely in the top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be great sometime to have your sister on so we could talk, hear a little more about that from her directly. But
Yeah. She and I were trying to figure out our schedules, and it's fucking impossible to. Whatever little time the two of us have together, we're like, all right, practice room now. Go.
Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah, no, that song, when she first showed it to me, I was like, oh, like I know like 7 of our friends who are gonna scream this at you. Like, it's just so. I think the simplicity of it, because she makes it very not specific.
Exactly. It's something I feel like a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people who went to Catholic school and were raised Catholic will be able to listen to that and really feel their own, story in it. Not necessarily it is a personal song of hers, but at the same time, it's vague enough that, a lot of people can relate to it.
Right.
I think that's really, really interesting. Just really, really good. Like really good songwriting, really good, just storytelling, or not storytelling, I guess, but just a way to like bring out emotion, bring out feelings for people. I don't know, just rambling, but I just really enjoyed that one. I live in the literal shadow of a Catholic church, like during the right time of day, like there's be a giant cross shadow on my house. And so
it's so like imposing. It's
yeah.
and it's so intentional. Like they are the bit. Like God, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, not to get, too into it, but it's a little crazy that most towns have more churches than grocery stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know how hard. I don't want to turn this into an
Hard as
episode
you
behind
want
the
to
bastard. But yeah, Amy and I both grew up near the oldest Catholic institution in the Western world.
Okay.
The seminary at Mount St. Mary's is like the original like first like landing site basically for the Catholic Church in the American continents, and just the amount of like history and when I was a little kid, it just like seemed like so much like a fabric of reality, and as you get older and you like start to like see things outside of the small town, and you're like, whoa, they are like force feeding us like a completely different existence, like just the things that you can't have access to, like the types of media and stuff. Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. It drives me crazy. I'm sorry. I get complain about the church forever.
Oh, you're good, man. No, I totally understand and totally agree with you on that. Like, it's crazy the amount of, I mean, for lack of a better term, propaganda that gets pumped out, and then just lack of, like you said, media exposure. How important media is, music, TV, movies. Like, you get totally separated from the real world, and it's crazy. But yeah, no, that's a fantastic song on an already fantastic album. I do have another question.
Yeah.
About the artwork for the album, because did you guys like come up with that yourselves, or where did that come from? Because I love the cover.
Yeah, me too. I was gonna ask a similar question.
Yeah, Amy painted that. Amy.
Oh, really?
Amy was a visual art student and painted that cover. Each of the things on the cover, each of those like objects correlates to one of the tracks.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Like either a line or like a reference to the title or whatever. But yeah. That was completely her.
Looking at it after you say that, it becomes very clear. You can you see each item, you can kind of piece it to a song. But I didn't get that, but now that you say it, it's like, okay, that's really neat. I really love this cover.
Yeah, I get
really
it 100%.
She painted it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
I was just looking at the album cover now.
Yeah, same. Sorry. I was lost in it for a second.
No, when she first showed me the painting of it, because it was smaller than I thought it was going to be, and like I saw the objects she selected, and I was kind of confused. She showed me the painting, and I was like, "Oh, that looks really cool." And then when we got the physical in, and I'm looking at a 12-inch version of it, I'm like, "Holy shit, I love this!"
Yeah.
Like, the color balance, I don't know what she did with like the blues on like an all soft like brown and warm. I don't know. I like it.
Oh yeah, man, it's great. I love it. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. The color, the bong blue, like sticks out so perfectly, and like, beautiful cover, beautiful painting. That's really amazing.
Another song I really liked was Imposter Syndrome. And that was the one with the like group vocals, right?
Yeah, it was a little sampling of like the Brave Face House or Sidebar Headliners Club all singing vocals for us.
Oh, okay. It's really cool.
Imposter Syndrome was great. That was probably one of the most recent songs for the record. I think Amy had the idea of doing she had the courage to do the big
like group vocal part at the end because of our time at Flabbercasters, where it was all like one line choruses. And when we noticed that like people in the basement or like people at the sidebar or something would sing along, we're like, oh wow, like that actually does happen. Like we can do that with our own songs. We could actually put like catchy lines, and if you repeat them enough, people will sing along. So Amy showed me that song, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And we played it once, and people really liked it. So we were like, oh, okay, hell yeah, let's record. Get all of our friends in the studio and do like a big one for the record.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And it's always great to have something like that with like, you know, a group of friends and being able to create something together. It's always a special thing.
Yeah. Everyone who did vocals on that record plays in a local band and or books shows for touring bands and or actually all of the above. Plays in a band, books shows for other bands, and they regularly like help people make records, appear on other people's records. Like Chaz, I know, does a lot of keyboard parts for some of the local bands who just want like a little texture. David, DC, and Mitch, those are all the Braceface dudes. They're one, my favorite punk band from Maryland, and two, they run like the best DIY venue, and it's awesome. Just an amazing community of people. I'm really dumb lucky to be part of this.
That's what this is all about, man. Is community, and I love to hear that because, like, you know, it's so important. It's so hard out there to do these things, to create, to be able to have the funds, literally, the money to do this, and you can't. I mean, unless you have that money, you can't do it alone. And it's great to have a community that can help. That's kind of like the idea of the podcast. Is like we don't have the resources to help out that much, but we want to do what we can for music that we love and bands that we like. So we want to help do any little part we can. And I just think community is so important in music. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Support your local bars, people. Support your local venues.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, speaking of community, I was gonna ask, I was looking at your Bandcamp, and I saw that the drummer for this record was Cabbage. Is that a drummer in the Baltimore scene, or?
That's my best friend. Cabbage and I met in 9th grade. We were in marching band together. He didn't like me because the girl he had a crush on me. And then we had a mutual friend who played guitar. I played bass. He played drums. So they got us in the same room, and we were like, "Oh, dude, you're wild. I like hanging out with you." And we got into all of the great teenage trouble that we got in, whether there were like police or curfews or getting in trouble with parents. It was almost always the two of us were involved together.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Cabbage is he's been Cabbage longer than I've known him. Apparently, one of the kids in his neighborhood walked up to him at the bus stop one morning, said, "I'm going to call you Cabbage from now on," and everyone at the bus stop agreed. And so when I met him, he was Cabbage. Like that's just how we've always known.
That's a pretty great nickname with a very like anticlimactic story. Like there's no like history behind it. It's just you're Cabbage now.
Not like you got like hit in the head with a cabbage or something and stuck. No, just
like I was expecting like a kid at the bus stop walked up to him and just gave him a cabbage.
That's
right.
Fun though.
Yeah, I have. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I have no idea why.
Yeah, man, that's life.
Yeah.
Some 12-year-old just said something that he thought was funny, and 15 years later, it's still going, I guess.
And also Meds, I think, was a great outro for the album. You want to talk about that song at all?
Yeah. that and Imposter Syndrome were almost certainly the two most recent songs.
Okay.
So I had heard like an acoustic version of Imposter Syndrome, and he had played it at like open mics and stuff. Meds was totally new. I heard her singing something under her breath one day, and I was like, "Oh, like that."
Oh, I think you cut out a
Later,
bit.
I show up to rehearse, and oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, so I just showed up to practice one day, and she had taught this thing to Aaron, and I was totally blown away by that song. It was super fun arranging that one because and we do it live. There's like the cymbal rolls and the triangle and stuff. So we'll do that one live. Aaron and I bring a little sack of percussion toys. So like I'll be doing the cymbal rolls while he's doing the triangle and the jazz beat and stuff. And like that was a lot of fun to play just because we get to use non-traditional toys in the middle of it.
Right, yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. So, what are a couple? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go.
Oh no, you go. I'll wait. My question kind of changes the topic. So.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is a really powerful song. Like getting to sing the backups on that is it's intense. Amy really knocked my socks off with that one.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I would say the entire album is a powerful album. Not to just continue to pray, go on about it, but like just the whole thing is just really well put together. It's a lot of very powerful songs in there. I was just going to ask if you could give us a few of your like big inspiration. I know you talked a little bit about music you've been listening to recently and what are some like older inspirations? You mentioned Blink-182 as being a band you listened to when you were younger and stuff like that. That one of your
yeah. So when we were kids, when we were learning to play our instruments, all three of us, Amy, Cabbage, and I, it was all AC/DC and Zeppelin. It was 100%. And then Amy started getting more into like the Doors and some of the more like 60s Woodstocky stuff. And I was like, no. I was like, that's kind of hippie bullcrap. I don't care for that. And I moved into the 80s and 90s and started listening to like the Gilman Street stuff, right? Like Op Ivy, Green Day, and Jawbreaker, and then like Blink-182 and some ska bands like Less Than Jake and Real Big Fish. Amy started getting into the hippie stuff. And then when I was in college, I bumped into a guy, my very, very brief stint in college, I bumped into a guy with a Streetlight Manifesto t-shirt, and I was like, oh, nice shirt. Like, I got a couple of their songs off of LimeWire. I was like, I really like that band. And he's like, this kid looks me up and down, and he goes, oh, you like ska punk? And he gave me this flash drive that ruined my life. And it was like everything off of quote-unquote records, which is like Jeff Rosenstock and all of his friends, like Shinobu, AJJ, what was that Irish band, Chewing on Tinfoil. So just like NoFX, all of the Jeff Rosenstock stuff, Streetlight Manifesto. Anyway, that led me into like the more heavy ska and folk punk stuff. So when I was writing those early Batty songs, it was all like Jeff Rosenstock and Pat the Bunny and Mischief Brew. Like that's exclusively what I was listening to when I was writing the early parts of this record.
Three of my favorite artists.
Yeah, no, you're just listening to our playlist right now.
And then I gave, it was funny because Amy was only doing the classic rock stuff for a while, and I gave her Pat the Bunny and a NoFX CD, and she came back to me with like 10 folk punk songs, and I was like, I see that you found the truth. So when she and I were writing this stuff, there's definitely a lot of Pat the Bunny, a little bit of Fat Mike and Eric from Mischief Brew. I know Amelia especially is a huge Laura Jane Grace fan. I like Against Me a lot as well, but I know Amelia's a huge fan of Laura.
Yeah.
And but when we were recording the record, like when we were rehearsing the songs as a trio, and when we actually went to the studio to make it, we were exclusively watching live footage of Against Me, and we were listening to Fuck Art by the Dirty Nil, and interviews with Luke Bentham of the Dirty Nil, just talking about like we would listen to how he made Fuck Art, and like what he was like, yeah, he's like, we were listening to like Kiss and Van Halen, so then we would put on a Kiss record, and we're like, okay, and then we would listen to the Dirty Nil again. So songwriting was very folk punk, but the making of the record was just like Van Halen and the Dirty Nil.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, I think Amy has a lot of the squeals and a lot of the kind of more like cock rock guitar playing on there that I think was directly inspired by how much we listened to that first Van Halen record this past year.
And then just moving on to the final song you sent us was Fancy Living in the Charm City.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that song before or after we listen to it?
Whichever you prefer. I guess, roll the song, I guess.
Yeah, let's listen to it real quick, then talk about it.
Can you tell me what am I supposed to do? How can I ever feel free? It's not easy when you take out applications, strung out of commiseration. There's total alienation, it's a leash. I guess I fell off the horse again, and I pushed away my friends. I find it hard, but if this is growing up, then I've got to stop with this incessant and prolonged apathy. Well, maybe I'm not losing hope, just letting go of all the toxic things I used to know. I need to hold on to something better. My convictions out and stronger. Well, here's to all of my friends. I hope this is the end. I can't say I've ever felt true progress in any sort of way, and it's not fair the way that I've been living, taking advantage of what I'm given by people who go out of their way. And so I will look forward to tomorrow, won't get beaten down by sorrow, 'cause pessimistic is what I have become. I never get shit done, I do not promote my own well-being. Well, maybe I'm not losing hope, just letting go of all the toxic things I used to know. I need to hold on to something better, my convictions that are stronger. Well, here's to all of my friends, I hope this is the end. But I can't keep living like this. So maybe I'm not losing hope, just letting go of all the toxic bullshit that I know. I need to hold on to something better, my convictions that are stronger. Well, here's to all of my friends, I'm not calling amends.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the whole album a lot, I guess.
Thank you. That was the very first Batty song. That was the very first song I wrote with the idea of like fronting my own like full punk or like punk rock band.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That one was definitely when I wrote it, it was like supposed to be real slow and somber, kind of sound like a country song on like ketamine or something. Like it's kind of like and there's probably some version of it on my YouTube of like a dorky young little me playing like really out of tune wannabe country version of that song. And when I showed it to Amy, she was like, "No, the song needs to be faster." And yeah, the writing of that one was weird because when I look back at it, it's really there's not like any like motion. It's just kind of I tried to force a little bit of motion by changing some of the specific lines in the last two choruses, just to try to like make each chorus a little bit like a step in a different direction. When I was writing that one, I was really focused on like the pairings of syllables more than like what I was saying. Like I like the I know Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers gets pooped on a lot for being a dorky like lyricist or whatever. But I always really liked. I don't know what a lot of Red Hot Chili Pepper songs are about. They're probably all about sex. But like
Or
I generally
California.
don't know. Yeah, or just California, having sex and getting high in California.
Yeah.
I generally don't know like exactly what he's saying, but I like the pairing of his words. It's really fun to say. It's like like very like percussive with the use of the teeth and the tongue, and so I like that. So that was kind of my goal with this song, was more like get interesting syllables next to each other, and just like I definitely had like a dictionary open. I was definitely trying to be like a wordsmith kind of thing with this one. I don't think the song has as much as it could, but I definitely was sticking around with wordplay for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really shows, and like, yeah, sometimes that's all you need in a song. Is it doesn't need to exactly make the most sense. It just needs to sound good, be fun to sing along with. That's the most important part. Sometimes.
Yeah, I can't remember which member specifically. It might have been Raekwon from from Wu-Tang Clan. I think he is the one who like specifically said, "Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Sometimes I just say anything that rhymed and just shit like that."
Sometimes that's what you gotta do, man. Sometimes that's what matters.
So I really wanted to, before we wrap this up, talk about, you got any shows coming up? And I don't know, I want to talk about live music since it's been coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know roughly when this will air? Because I've been working real hard to fill up our calendar, both as show hosters and getting ourselves out on the road a little bit. But
yeah, the episode should be up by the end of the week, most likely.
Oh, this week. Oh, well then. Oh, yeah. We'll be hosting at our own house. We'll be hosting Occlusions, which is a solo artist originally from Seattle. They just moved to Philly this summer. And we played a show with them in Philly a month or two ago, and so we're bringing them down. They're going to be playing with some of our friends in our DIY venue.
Awesome.
We will be playing in Baltimore at Holy Frijoles on the 27th, which is like right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then we'll be hosting we'll be hosting our friends from New Jersey, White Boy. We'll be having a trans-fronted punk night in our DIY venue again, first week of December. And then we'll be out on the road in January. January 22nd, we're going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then I'm currently, actually just moments before I got on this call with you, I was writing emails trying to get into like Charlotte and Richmond the days leading up to that. And
awesome.
So yeah, January we're heading south for the winter. So we'll be posting about that on like Insta or Twitter.
Yeah. Go ahead if you have like any, like, go ahead and send us any of that kind of stuff. We'll post some of it too, and kind of shout you guys out and try to get the word out there for live music. People need to go out and support.
Is y'all's local scene opening back up? You having any like bands on the road or like just local shows popping up?
My local scene is very very small. There's not really any punk bands, but my uncle's in a reggae rock band and a Dead cover band, and he's actually in a punk band. And yeah, I go to those shows any chance I can, but the big city next to us, Syracuse, it has some shows, but I don't got a car, so I don't get out there very often.
How far are y'all from like Fredonia?
I'm in Kansas, so I'm in the Midwest where we don't believe in science. So we didn't shut down. Like, my local scene didn't really shut down. They just kept going.
I'm not really sure for me. We're in upstate New York.
Yeah, Fredonia, I think it's along the lakes. It's pretty far west, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You guys are out on the
about
road.
A 3-hour drive from us.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's awesome. You guys are getting out there on the road, doing shows again. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear any band playing live music.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've definitely been seeing it come back a little bit. It's weird, because I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of this issue, but everyone is going back on tour at the same time, so all of the venues are kind of getting like clogged up.
Yep.
Which is funny because all of the major venues are totally booked out. So the bands who might play bigger venues are now being forced to play the mid-tier venues. So now all the mid-tier venues are getting booked up. So the bands who play the mid-tier venues are getting pushed into like the smaller, like
the bars and clubs and stuff.
Exactly. Yes, that's a real problem.
If anyone who is listening to this, if ever the time came to host a DIY show in your yard or in your uncle's garage, or like, if you're like, hey, they let us do like community events in the church basketball court on like Sunday afternoons. Maybe we could like get 6 easy core bands to play from 1 to 7 or something. That if ever the time to host DIY stuff, it's now.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. This is the time to do it. There's a lot of bands that have been waiting to play. They want to play. This is the time. Give them the opportunity. Give them the support. Get them out there. Host shows. Go to shows. Do what you can to help.
Yell Freebird.
Not to get too into it, but Clear Channel did make a shitload of money off of that government package, and they also laid off a bunch of employees and basically fucked over musicians for the last 2 years. So go see shows that are hosted in other people's garages, and maybe stop fucking letting Bud Light and Clear Channel dictate what's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Support local first, always.
And stop buying Adele records. We need Sony to stop. Well, we just need Sony to stop fucking printing 500,000 copies of a record that 20,000 people are gonna buy.
No
disrespect to Adele. Adele is amazing, but
she's great.
Pirate the Adele record. Do not buy the vinyl. Oh my god.
Yeah, have you guys seen? They're saying like first quarter 2023 for records that are going to vinyl after December, pretty much.
Yeah, good luck with vinyls, man. It's going to get worse from here.
Oh, yeah.
So sad to see. They've just destroyed the industry.
I think what indie labels need to start doing is what they did in Soviet Russia, where they put the records on like old discarded X-rays.
Oh yeah, I'd heard about that.
Yeah, they used to like use a reverse gramophone to they'd like shittily cut a circle out of an old X-ray of like a skull or something, and they'd use a cigarette to burn a hole in the middle, and they'd put music on X-rays like that back then. Because mad music was like banned in the USSR.
Like the original Flexies. They're like.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So besides just live shows and getting out there, is there anything else in Batty's near future that you want to talk about? Any new music on the way, working on anything right now, or just kind of coasting on this new album?
No, we actually no coasting whatsoever. We before the record was even out, we had already learned one new song, and now we just played a show in Delaware the other night, and I'm trying to think. We played 3 or maybe 4 new songs. So Amy,
Oh wow.
as soon as we put this record out, Amy came back to us with like almost an album's worth of material, and I've been like in full on. Oh man, if I want to get a goddamn word in on this next record, I gotta start cranking out some of these songs.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like the album just really put a fire under your ass and got you guys working even more. Love to hear it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I've probably got 3 pretty decent songs ready to go, and Amy's got quite a few. So
Wow.
yeah,
Excited to hear it.
definitely
Can't wait.
Are you guys looking to do any splits with bands in the future? Any specific bands you got in mind?
I would love to do a split. One of the things I was thinking about, because like the obvious choice would be to do splits with our homies like Brave Face or Chaz Monroe or Strong Zero. But honestly, I was talking to Josh from Urban Crater. Just want to shout out Urban Crater, the greatest ska band to ever write a song about peeing your pants. I was talking to my buddy Josh about the idea of doing splits, and kind of we thought like it would be cooler to do something with someone like further away. I know like they were talking to some of their buddies from Texas to do it. They were like, oh, so they're like, you know, we kind of cover the Baltimore ska stuff, they cover the Texas stuff. So all the obvious things that come to mind would be my homies in the Mid-Atlantic, and I think it would actually be kind of wise to stray away from that. So I think when we head south, I think I'm going to try to like keep that on my mind, because it's something that's crossed my mind. We haven't really made any moves.
That'd be awesome. Do something like someone new and just really create like a new, you know, because if you're working with someone you know well, you kind of already know what to expect to an extent. And so, yeah, getting that new sound from a totally new band, I think that'd be really cool. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, and like, I like the idea of the internet has kind of broken the local scene a little bit, but I definitely still think that there's to an extent, like there are certainly still scenes where like bands all start to kind of learn off of each other, and then like it allows like cool ideas to kind of like incubate in a community, so you have a bunch of minds like working on a sound together. But also, I do think that kind of tends to lead itself to these bands start getting too into that. I know, like our old band, the Flabbercasters, inspired Braceface to do something. So then Braceface comes out with this, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." So then we expound on that idea, and it's cool. You get cool ideas that way, but also it winds up creating too much of a insular thing. Yeah, I definitely like the idea of like, oh well, you know, there's definitely a little bit of an understanding of like what are the Philly bands doing, what are the Baltimore bands doing, what are the Virginia bands doing, and they're like, oh, let's go check over here and like let's go check over here and see what like, you know, what are people up in like New Hampshire or like Vermont doing, or what's going on down here in like El Paso and Austin, like
Yeah, for sure.
I totally agree. The internet has changed how it's interesting because like local sound I still feel is so prominent. Like sure it's spread, like, you know, a certain sound like it's popular online will spread everywhere, but every local scene is still different. And
yeah, for sure, because I mean,
go ahead.
I would say even if you're being inspired from like outside influences, still if it's the same people passing around records to each other, like you know, someone gives you a CD or like a music recommendation, and they're like, even if it's for an outside resource, like it's all like bands from like Gainesville or New York, you're still it's still the same people like, oh, we know what you like. We're gonna inspire you to do X, Y, and Z. Like, yeah. The insular thing. It's not intentional. It's just
No,
it's
it
just
just
a thing that
happens.
happens with
Just it's always been like that, and it's just an interesting topic. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Anything else you want to add, RJ?
No, not really. You guys covered all the great points. But yeah, I think with that we could probably wrap it up. Make sure you follow Batty on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Bandcamp, everywhere. Look out for new music. Great.
Yeah, we're Batty the band on every platform: Bandcamp, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. My personal TikTok is Joe the Wolf. I've been debating whether I want to change my personal TikTok to just being Batty the band, because I don't really want to run 2 TikToks because I already don't use TikTok enough for one, let alone 2. But if you want to listen to me get real mad and rant for 2 minutes about how unfair our neighborhoods or don't have access to the same stuff as other neighborhoods, follow me on TikTok, I guess.
There it is.
For sure. And follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Here's to Rubble.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for doing this. What you guys do is really important. Like, I know that the airways could get clogged when I started working on an idea for a podcast. I know like there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of a cliche about like starting indie podcasts right now, but I think it's really important, and I really want to thank you dudes for doing this. This is awesome. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man. It was a great talk. We'll definitely have to get you on again. Talk to Amelia sometime.
Yeah, we'd love to have you guys back. It'd be great.
Oh man, we'll get Cabbage all liquored up.
There we go.
There we go.
We get a party. Not a party.
Thank you so much.
Cabbage.
All right, yeah. You have a great day, man.
You as well.